Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard Sentinel-7, watching the stars through the observation window. The defense station orbited Earth at a comfortable distance, close enough to respond to any threat, but far enough to give warning time. Not that there had been any real threats in the 50 years since humanity joined the Galactic Council. Life had been peaceful, almost boring. "Captain, I'm picking up something odd," said Lieutenant Chris Parker from the sensor station. His young face showed confusion as he tapped at his console. Jake stood and walked over. "What kind of odd?" "Energy signatures at the edge of our territory. 3 vessels, maybe 4. They're not broadcasting identification codes." This was unusual. Every ship in Council space had to broadcast its codes. It was one of the most basic rules. Jake leaned over to look at the readings. The signatures were strange, flickering in and out of sensor range like they were trying to hide. "Hail them," Jake ordered. Chris tried, but there was no response. The mysterious ships continued moving through human space, getting closer to the inner system. Jake felt a cold worry in his gut. Something was wrong. "Send a message to Council headquarters," he said. "Tell them we have unauthorized vessels in our territory." Down on Luna, Dr. Amy Chen was having her own strange day. She worked at the Lunar Research Facility, studying alien biology and culture. For weeks, she had been reviewing old Council documents, trying to understand the developmental protocols that governed humanity's place in the galaxy. The protocols were supposed to protect young species like humans. They limited how many ships Earth could build, what weapons they could develop, and how far they could expand. The Council said it was for humanity's own good, to keep them safe while they learned the ways of galactic civilization. But the more Amy read, the less sense it made. Some of the restrictions seemed designed not to protect humanity, but to keep them weak. Humans could only build small defense ships. They couldn't research certain weapons technologies. They couldn't establish colonies beyond their own solar system without Council approval, which never came. Amy pulled up another file and her breath caught. It was a report from the Council's first contact with Earth, over 60 years ago. The title made her hands shake. Assessment of Human Threat Level. Threat level? Humans had been peaceful when the Council arrived. They had welcomed the aliens with open arms, eager to join the galactic community. Why would the Council see them as threats? She read the report with growing alarm. The Council scouts had studied human history, their wars, their rapid technological development, their stubborn refusal to give up in the face of impossible odds. The report's conclusion was chilling. Species shows unprecedented aggressive expansion tendencies and adaptive warfare capabilities. Recommend immediate integration under restrictive protocols to prevent future security concerns. Amy sat back in her chair, her mind racing. The Council hadn't invited humanity to join out of kindness. They had done it to control them. At Earth's fleet headquarters in Geneva, Commander Lisa Rodriguez was having an argument with a Council representative. The alien, a tall, blue-skinned Ventari named Halux, stood in her office looking annoyed. "Commander, your Captain Morrison is being dramatic," Halux said in his musical voice. "There are no unauthorized vessels in your space. Your sensors are simply miscalibrated." "Our sensors are fine," Lisa said firmly. "We have 4 confirmed contacts moving through the outer system. They refuse to identify themselves. According to Council law, we have the right to intercept them." "You have the right to ask the Council for help," Halux corrected. "Earth Defense Forces are not equipped to handle potential hostile contacts. That is why we are here, to protect you." Lisa bit back an angry response. This was typical Council attitude. Humanity was always treated like children who couldn't take care of themselves. But she had seen the sensor data. Those ships were real, and they were getting closer. "I'm sending our patrol ships to investigate," she said. Halix's face darkened. "That would violate the developmental protocols. You cannot deploy military assets without council authorization." "Those protocols say we can defend our territory in emergencies." "There is no emergency. Only human paranoia." After Halux left, Lisa sat at her desk and made a decision. She pulled up the classified files, the ones that required her highest security clearance. Files that dated back to before the Council arrived, to the days when humanity had been alone in the universe and building their own defenses. What she found made her call the President immediately. The next morning, Jake watched as 3 human patrol ships approached the mysterious vessels. The aliens finally responded, but not with words. They opened fire. The patrol ship's shields held, barely. They were outmatched and outgunned. Jake watched helplessly as his people fought against an enemy with superior technology. One of the patrol ships took heavy damage and had to retreat. "Who are they?" Chris shouted over the alarms. Jake pulled up the analysis his computer had been running. The answer came back, and his blood ran cold. "Krelvoth Empire. They're not even part of the Council." The Krelvoth were a hostile species that lived beyond Council space. They were known for raiding weaker civilizations and taking what they wanted. And now they were here, in human territory, attacking with impunity. Jake sent another urgent message to the Council. This time, he didn't ask for help. He demanded it. Earth was under attack. The response came an hour later. Council Ambassador Nicole Harper appeared on his screen, looking worried but helpless. "Jake, the Council is discussing the situation," she said carefully. "Discussing? Nicole, we're being attacked right now." I know. But the Council moves slowly. There are procedures, debates. Some members think the Krelvath have a legitimate claim to your system." "A legitimate claim? This is our home." Nicole's face showed her frustration. "Earth is classified as a protectorate, not a full sovereign state. Under Council law, that makes things complicated. I'm fighting for you, Jake, but it takes time." Time they didn't have. The Krelvath ships were pushing deeper into the system, ignoring the weak human defenses. More ships were arriving through jump points, a whole fleet assembling at Earth's doorstep. On the surface of Earth, President Ryan Foster watched the reports with a grim expression. He had called an emergency meeting of his cabinet and military leadership. Admiral Kyle Bennett sat across from him, an old man with steel in his eyes. "Admiral, tell me the truth," Ryan said. "Can we fight them?" Kyle was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, a cold and dangerous smile. "Mr. President, I thought you'd never ask." He pulled out a datapad and slid it across the table. Ryan read the file names, and his eyes went wide. Project Valiant, Operation Sentinel, the Mars Shipyards, Luna Defense Grid. Names he had never heard before, programs that supposedly didn't exist. "When we joined the Council, we made a choice," Kyle said quietly. "We chose to appear weak, to seem harmless. We mothballed our best ships, hid our weapons, and pretended to follow their protocols. We did it because we wanted peace, wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves. But we kept building," Ryan whispered, understanding dawning. "We kept building," Kyle confirmed. "Hidden facilities, black projects, technology the Council said we couldn't develop. We built it all anyway, just in case. Just in case the galaxy wasn't as friendly as they claimed." Ryan looked at the datapad again, at the staggering numbers. Hundreds of ships in hidden storage, weapons platforms scattered throughout the solar system, technology that would shock the Council. Humanity hadn't been sleeping for 50 years. They had been preparing. "What do you need from me, Admiral?" "Your permission to wake up, sir. Let us show the galaxy what humans really are." President Foster took a deep breath and pressed his palm to the authorization pad. Across Earth's solar system, systems that had been dormant for decades began to activate. Ancient shipyards came online, weapons platforms emerged from hiding, defense networks that shouldn't exist started powering up, and the galaxy's sensors detected it all, the massive energy surge from the small human world. On the Galactic Council station, alarms began to ring. The counselors stared at their displays in disbelief as they saw Earth's true military capacity revealing itself for the first time. One of them, the reptilian counselor Zekthar, whispered the question that was on everyone's mind. Are they attacking Earth? Or have we awakened something terrible? The Krelvath fleet commander, war leader Thex, stood on his bridge and watched the primitive human world with satisfaction. His fleet of 200 warships surrounded the inner solar system like a net. The humans had tried to fight with their small patrol craft, but it had been pathetic. Now, they sat huddled around their planet, waiting for the inevitable. "Broadcast the claim message," Thex ordered. His communications officer sent the declaration across all frequencies. Earth and its system were now property of the Krelvath Empire. All human vessels would be seized. All human resources would be extracted. The humans had 48 hours to surrender completely. Thex didn't expect them to fight. The Galactic Council had assured the Krelvath that humans were a weak species, barely capable of defending themselves. That's why the Council wouldn't intervene. Why would they risk war over such an insignificant species? Ambassador Nicole Harper stood in the council chamber, her face red with anger and frustration. Around her, representatives from hundreds of alien species sat in their floating seats, watching her with expressions ranging from sympathy to indifference. "You cannot let this happen," Nicole shouted. "The Krelvath are invading a council member world. If you do nothing, what message does that send?" Counselor Zekthar, who led the military committee, raised one clawed hand. "Ambassador Harper, Earth is a protectorate, not a full member. The laws that protect sovereign worlds do not fully apply. That's a technicality, and you know it." "It is the law," Zekthar said simply. "Furthermore, the Krelvath claim is not entirely without merit. Earth was assigned its territory by the Council. The Krelvath contest that assignment. This is a legal matter that will take time to resolve." Nicole wanted to scream. She could see it in their faces. They were afraid, not of the Krelvath, but of the precedent. If the Council went to war to defend Earth, it might obligate them to defend other worlds. It was easier to let humanity fall. "Then Earth will defend itself," Nicole said quietly. "With what?" another counselor asked. "Humans have limited military capacity. The developmental protocols ensure this. You cannot fight the Krelvath Empire." Nicole smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. "We'll see about that." President Ryan Foster addressed the people of Earth from the White House. Every screen on the planet showed his face. Luna, Mars, and the orbital stations all watched. The message was also broadcast to the Krelvath fleet and the Galactic Council. "Citizens of Earth, people of humanity," Ryan began. "For 50 years, we have been members of the Galactic Council. We joined them in peace, hoping to be part of a great community among the stars. We followed their rules, even when those rules seemed unfair. We did this because we believed in the promise of a better future." He paused, his expression hardening. "Today, that promise has been broken. A hostile empire has invaded our home. They claim our world as their property. They threaten our families, our freedom, our very existence. And the council we trusted does nothing." Across Earth, people watched in silence. They knew what was coming. "The Krelvath Empire believes we are weak. The Galactic Council believes we are helpless. They think humanity is a species that can be bullied and controlled. They are wrong. Ryan's voice grew stronger. Today, I am authorizing Admiral Kyle Bennett to activate all defense protocols. Today, humanity stops pretending. Today, we show the galaxy who we really are. Admiral Kyle Bennett sat in the command center deep beneath Colorado. Around him, officers worked at stations that had been built decades ago, but kept secret. The room hummed with power as systems came online, one after another. "Status report," Kyle said calmly. "Mars shipyards are active," reported Commander Danny Wright from the engineering station. "We have 147 capital ships ready for deployment. Another 63 need minor repairs but can launch within 12 hours. Kyle nodded. The Mars shipyards had been hidden in the deep canyons of Valles Marineris, disguised as mining operations. For decades, ships had been built and stored there, waiting for this moment. "Luna defense grid is online," added another officer. "All planetary cannons are charged and ready. Earth surface batteries are coming online now." The Luna defense grid was a network of massive weapons built into the moon itself. From space, they looked like ordinary craters. But each crater housed a cannon capable of destroying a battleship in one shot. Similar weapons were hidden all over Earth, disguised as mountains, valleys, and ocean trenches. "What about the outer system?" Kyle asked. "Jupiter Station reports ready. Saturn Defense Ring is at full power. Uranus and Neptune outposts are active." Kyle allowed himself a small smile. The Council thought humans only had a few dozen ships and some basic defenses around Earth. They had no idea that humanity had fortified the entire solar system. There were weapons platforms hidden in asteroid belts, automated defense stations disguised as research outposts, and entire fleets stored in cold sleep at the edge of the system. "Deploy the first wave," Kyle ordered. "Let's give the Krelvath a proper greeting." Commander Megan Torres climbed into her fighter cockpit, her hands shaking with adrenaline. She was one of 50 pilots launching from the hidden hangar on Phobos, one of Mars's moons. Her ship, a sleek fighter designated Viper 7, had been built using technology the Council claimed was too advanced for humans. The Council had been wrong about many things. "All Vipers, this is Control," came the voice over her radio. "You are cleared for launch. Remember your training. Stay tight, watch each other's backs, and show these aliens why you don't mess with humanity." Megan grinned as her fighter shot out of the hangar into open space. Around her, 49 other fighters formed up in perfect formation. Ahead, she could see the Krelvath fleet, their ships large and menacing against the stars. "Viper flight, engage at will," the commander ordered. The human fighters accelerated, moving far faster than the Krelvath expected. The aliens had been told human technology was primitive. They were about to learn otherwise. Thex watched his sensors with confusion as the small human craft approached. There were only 50 of them, tiny things that shouldn't pose any threat. But they were moving at incredible speed, faster than any fighter he had ever seen. "Destroy them," he ordered casually. His ships opened fire, but the human fighters danced through the weapons fire like they could predict where the shots would be. Then they returned fire, and Thex's confusion turned to alarm. The human weapons cut through his ship's shields like they weren't even there. 3 Krelvath destroyers exploded in the first volley. 5 more took critical damage. The human fighters swept through his formation, firing with precision, then vanished before his ships could respond. "What was that?" Thex roared. "How do they have that kind of firepower?" His sensor officer looked terrified. "War leader, I'm detecting massive energy signatures throughout the human system. They have hundreds of weapons platforms. They're everywhere. And ships. War leader. So many ships." On the main display, Thex watched as the human system lit up like a constellation. Ships emerged from hiding spots all over the solar system. Not the small patrol craft they had been fighting, but massive warships, each one bristling with weapons. The shipyards on Mars opened, and more ships poured out like angry wasps from a disturbed nest. "This is impossible," Thex whispered. "The Council said humans were restricted, that they couldn't build military forces." "The Council was wrong," his second-in-command said quietly. Earth's moon suddenly blazed with light as the hidden cannons revealed themselves. Massive beams of energy lanced out, crossing the distance to the Krelvath fleet in seconds. Where they struck, ships simply ceased to exist, vaporized by weapons that shouldn't exist in human hands. Thex watched in horror as his fleet, which had seemed so overwhelming just minutes ago, suddenly looked small and vulnerable. The humans had been hiding their strength all along. They had been pretending to be weak while building an arsenal that could rival any major power in the galaxy. "Retreat!" Thex shouted. "All ships, retreat to the edge of the system!" But it was too late. Human ships had already moved to cut off their escape routes. The trap was closing. On the Galactic Council station, chaos erupted. Every counselor stared at their displays, watching the unfolding battle in the human system. The sensor data was clear and undeniable. Earth had hidden military forces that dwarfed what the developmental protocols allowed. "This is a violation," one counselor shouted. "They broke the treaties." "The treaties kept them in a cage," another responded. "Can you blame them for breaking out?" Zekthar sat in silence, his reptilian face unreadable. But inside, he felt cold fear. He had helped write those developmental protocols. He had been one of the counselors who insisted on restricting humanity. Now, he understood the terrible truth. The protocols hadn't been about protecting humanity. They had been about protecting the galaxy from humanity. And they had failed. "Are they attacking Earth?" a young counselor asked in confusion, watching the display. "No," Zekthar said softly. "Earth is attacking back. And I think we made a terrible mistake 50 years ago. We tried to keep them weak because we feared what they might become. Instead, we taught them to hide their strength and wait for the right moment. We created this." The council chamber fell silent as they watched humanity unleash its fury on the Krelvath fleet. Every counselor had the same thought. If humans could hide this much from us, what else are they capable of? Nicole Harper watched the battle feeds with tears in her eyes, not tears of sadness, but of pride. Her people, dismissed as weak and helpless, were showing the galaxy their true spirit. They weren't the strongest species, or the most advanced, but they were survivors, and they would not go quietly into the night. She opened a communication to President Foster. "Ryan, the Council is terrified. They're calling emergency sessions demanding to know how we hid all of this." "Let them be terrified," Ryan replied. "For too long we've been treated as children. That ends today. Humanity will never again bow to anyone." Counselor Zekthar stood in the Council's Military Intelligence Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the battle in Earth's solar system. Every screen told the same story. The Krelvath fleet was being systematically destroyed by forces that shouldn't exist. "Show me the archive footage," Zekthar commanded, "from first contact with humanity." A technician pulled up the files from 60 years ago. Zekthar watched the recordings of Earth as the Council's scout ships had first observed it. He saw a world divided into nations, but already reaching for the stars. He saw their wars, their weapons, their stubborn refusal to accept defeat even when facing impossible odds. The scout commander's report played in his ears. These humans are dangerous. They evolved technology at an alarming rate. In just 200 years, they went from simple machines to splitting atoms and reaching their moon. Their history is nothing but war, adaptation, and survival. If left unchecked, they could become a threat to galactic stability. Zekthar remembered the debates that followed. Some counselors wanted to destroy humanity before they became dangerous. Others argued for integration under strict control. The developmental protocols were the compromise. Invite humans into the council, but keep them weak forever. Now, watching human warships tear through a Krelvath battle fleet, Zekthar understood the terrible irony. They hadn't stopped humanity from becoming dangerous. They had just made sure humanity would be clever about it. "Sir, we are receiving reports from our embassy on Earth," an aide said nervously. "They're evacuating. Most council species are pulling their people out of the Sol system." "Smart," Zekthar muttered. "Tell them to go, and make sure our ships stay far away from human space until this is over." Dr. Danny Wright worked frantically in the Mars shipyard's control center. Around him, engineers rushed between stations, coordinating the launch of ships that had been in storage for decades. Some of these vessels were designs that predated Earth's entry into the Galactic Council, built when humanity still thought they might be alone in a hostile universe. "How many ships are operational?" asked Admiral Bennett through the communication link. "We have 237 fully operational," Danny reported. "Another 100 will be ready within 24 hours. The new weapon systems are exceeding expectations. The gravity torpedoes are particularly effective." Danny pulled up footage from the battle. One of the human destroyers had fired a weapon that looked like a small black sphere. When it hit a Krelvath cruiser, the sphere expanded into a localized gravity well. The cruiser was crushed into the size of a car in 3 seconds. Its entire crew killed instantly. The Galactic Council had banned gravity weapons 50 years ago, calling them inhumane. Humanity had signed the treaty, then kept researching them in secret. After all, the treaty said nothing about developing weapons for purely defensive purposes. "What about the biological systems?" Bennett asked. Danny hesitated. "Those are ready too, but Admiral, are we sure we want to use them? They're aggressive." "The Krelvath invaded our home. We'll use everything we have." Danny nodded and authorized the deployment of the bioweapons. These were nanobots designed to infiltrate enemy ships through any opening, then systematically shut down electronic systems. The Council had banned nanotechnology weapons as well. Humanity had ignored that ban too. Dr. Sophie Martinez sat in her laboratory on Luna, monitoring the battle data. She was a physicist who specialized in shield technology. For years, she had studied the Council's shield designs, looking for weaknesses. She had found plenty. The Krelvath used standard Council pattern shields, the kind that were supposedly unbeatable. Sophie had discovered something interesting about them. They were designed to stop energy weapons and kinetic projectiles. They weren't designed to stop exotic matter. "Admiral, this is Martinez," she said into her communicator. "I'm sending you the specs for the anti-shield missile. It should pass right through their defenses." "How does it work?" "It uses exotic matter particles that exist in a different quantum state. The shields literally can't see them. By the time the Krelvath realize they've been hit, the missile is already detonating inside their ship." Sophie watched as her missiles were loaded onto human destroyers. She felt a moment of guilt. This weapon could kill thousands of Krelvath in seconds. But then she remembered they had come to enslave her world, and the guilt vanished. Captain Alex Turner commanded the Stealth Operations Division from a ship that officially didn't exist. The EAS Shadow was equipped with cloaking technology, that humanity had developed by reverse engineering Council sensor systems. If you knew exactly what the Council was looking for, you could make yourself invisible to their scanners. Alex's mission was simple but dangerous. Infiltrate the Krelvath command structure and create chaos. His team of special operations soldiers were the best humanity had, trained in combat techniques that combined every effective martial art from Earth's history with new methods designed for zero-gravity fighting. "We're approaching the Krelvath flagship," his pilot reported. "They still haven't detected us." "Good. Prepare for boarding." The shadow matched velocity with the Krelvath command ship, a massive vessel that coordinated the entire enemy fleet. Alex and his team of 20 soldiers put on their combat suits, grabbed their weapons, and entered the airlock. In space combat, boarding an enemy ship was usually suicide, but the Krelvath didn't know humans were coming. Their shields were focused on stopping big threats, not small insertion teams. Alex's team cut through the hull with plasma torches, entering a supply corridor deep in the ship. The Krelvath crew members they encountered looked shocked. Some tried to fight. They died quickly. Others ran. They were hunted down. "Plant the charges," Alex ordered. "We have 10 minutes before they realize we're here." His team spread through the ship, placing explosive charges at critical junctions. But Alex had a special mission. He made his way to the command center, where the Krelvath fleet commander coordinated the battle. War leader Thex stared at his displays in growing panic. His fleet of 200 ships had already been reduced to 140. The human weapons were unlike anything he had encountered. They used gravity, exotic particles, and nanobots. Some human ships even fired missiles that carried nuclear weapons, which the Council had banned centuries ago. Humans apparently didn't care about bans. "War leader, we need to retreat," his second-in-command urged. "We're losing ships too quickly." "No! The Krelvath Empire does not retreat from primitives. These aren't primitives. They've been deceiving the entire galaxy for 50 years. Before Thex could respond, the lights in the command center flickered. Alarms began to sound. On the security monitors, he saw something that froze his blood. Human soldiers, moving through his ship like deadly shadows. "We've been boarded!" someone shouted. Thex drew his weapon, but it was too late. The door to the command center exploded inward. Through the smoke, a human in black combat armor walked calmly into the room. The soldier removed his helmet, revealing a face that was smiling. "Hello," Alex said in perfect Krelvath language. "My name is Captain Alex Turner. You're going to order your fleet to stand down, or I'm going to blow up this ship with everyone on it." "You're bluffing," Thex snarled. Alex pressed a button on his wrist. Explosions rocked the ship as charges detonated throughout the vessel. "I have 15 more charges planted in critical systems. Next one destroys your reactor core. Your choice." Thex looked at his crew, saw their fear, and felt his own pride crumble. "What do you want?" "I want you to send a message to every Krelvath ship. Tell them to retreat beyond the outer system and wait there. Tell them that if any ship fires another shot, my admiral will turn your entire fleet into scrap metal." On the Galactic Council station, panic had spread like wildfire. Delegates from smaller species were fleeing, convinced that humanity was about to launch a galactic war. The larger, more powerful species were holding emergency meetings, trying to decide how to respond. In one meeting room, Counselor Zekthar sat with 5 other military leaders from major council species. On the display between them, data scrolled, showing Earth's revealed capabilities. 240 ships of the line, read the Ventari delegate. Hidden weapons platforms throughout their system. Technology that exceeds council standards in several categories. Energy reserves that suggest industrial capacity far beyond what we believed possible. "They've been building in secret for 50 years, added the Corthan representative. While we thought we were protecting a young species, they were preparing for war. Zekthar spoke quietly. They were preparing for survival. There's a difference. Is there? Look at what they're doing to the Krelvath. It's slaughter. The Krelvath invaded their home. What did you expect humans to do? Ask nicely for them to leave? The Ventari delegate shook his head. The question is, what do we do now? If we acknowledge what humanity has done, we admit the developmental protocols failed. But if we try to enforce the protocols, we might find ourselves at war with a species that's been planning for this exact scenario. There's another option, said a new voice. Counselor Helux, who had been present on Earth just days ago, entered the room. We could accept that humanity has graduated from their protectorate status. Make them a full sovereign member of the Council. After they violated every treaty we gave them? What choice do we have? Helix asked. Look at the battlefield. Humans are winning against a fleet that should have crushed them, and they're not using their full strength yet. I've seen their files. They have weapons they haven't even deployed. Do you know what frightens me most? What? They're winning while holding back. They could destroy the Krelvath fleet completely, but they're giving them a chance to retreat. That shows restraint. It shows mercy. Those are qualities we should encourage, not punish. Zekthar nodded slowly. Helix is right. We have two choices. Accept humanity as equals, or make an enemy of them. I don't know about you, but I've seen enough of what humans can do. I don't want to fight them. Back on Earth, President Ryan Foster watched the battle reports with satisfaction. The Krelvath were pulling back, damaged and defeated. Human forces were allowing them to retreat, though the K-Fayapseda were Babakit weapons trained on the enemy fleet at all times. We did it, said Admiral Bennett, standing beside him. We defended Earth. For now, Ryan replied. But this changes everything. The Council will never trust us again. Good. Let them fear us instead. Fear brings respect. Ryan thought about that. His entire political career had been built on diplomacy, on trying to work within the Council system. But maybe Bennett was right. Maybe humanity had been too eager to please, too willing to accept restrictions on their freedom. Admiral, keep our forces on alert. If the Council tries anything, I want us ready. They won't try anything, sir. They're too scared. On Luna, Dr. Amy Chen watched the news broadcasts from the Council station. The alien reporters were calling it the human revelation, and they sounded terrified. She saw interviews with counselors who called humanity deceptive, dangerous, and unpredictable. But she also saw something else: respect. For the first time since joining the Council, humanity wasn't being talked about like children. They were being discussed as a real power, a force that had to be taken seriously. Amy thought about the developmental protocols, the restrictions that had kept her world trapped for 50 years. Those protocols were dead now. Earth had broken free, and nothing would ever be the same. She pulled up a message from her old professor, who now lived on the Council station. It was just 2 words. Well done. Amy smiled. The galaxy had tried to keep humanity small and controllable. Instead, they had taught humans the value of patience, planning, and striking when the moment was right. In trying to contain humanity, the Council had created exactly what they feared: a species that would never be controlled again. War Leader Thex sat in his command chair, humiliated and furious. His fleet had retreated to the edge of the human solar system, where they waited under the guns of human warships. His warriors, proud soldiers of the Krelvath Empire, had been forced to surrender by a species the galaxy had dismissed as weak. But Thex was not ready to give up. The Krelvath Empire had sent him with 200 ships. he still had 138 functional vessels. That was still a powerful force. And the Empire was sending reinforcements, another 100 ships that would arrive within days. The humans showed their hand too early, Thex told his officers. They revealed their hidden forces to scare us, but we know their numbers now. We can adapt. We can win. His second-in-command looked doubtful. War leader, perhaps we should negotiate. The humans have proven they can defend themselves. Negotiate? We are Krelvoth. We do not negotiate with prey. Thex sent a message to the Krelvoth High Command. He outlined his plan. Wait for reinforcements, study human tactics, then attack again with overwhelming force. The humans had surprised them once. It wouldn't happen again. The response from High Command came quickly. Approved. The Krelvoth Empire would not accept defeat from a species that had been in space for barely a century. General Brandon Cole stood in the command bunker beneath Geneva, studying holographic maps of the solar system. He commanded Earth's ground forces, though this battle was happening in space. Still, he knew his time would come. If any Krelvoth soldiers managed to reach Earth's surface, his Marines would be waiting. General, we're receiving intelligence that the Krelvoth are regrouping, reported his intelligence officer. They're waiting for reinforcements. Brandon nodded. He had expected this. The Krelvoth were a warrior culture. They didn't retreat easily. And they never admitted defeat. This battle was far from over. How long until their reinforcements arrive? 3 days, maybe 4. Good. That gives us time to prepare a proper welcome. Brandon pulled up files on his own soldiers. The Council thought human military training was limited by the developmental protocols. They were wrong. Earth had been training special forces in secret, preparing for the day when diplomacy failed. His Marines had trained in environments across the solar system. They had fought in the low gravity of Luna, the toxic atmosphere of Venus, the frozen wastes of Europa. They had studied every Council species, learning their weaknesses, their fighting styles, their psychology. The Council had unknowingly helped. Every cultural exchange, every diplomatic meeting, every alien visitor to Earth had been studied. Humanity had been gathering intelligence for 50 years, learning everything about their galactic neighbors. Sir, we have volunteers asking to join the combat teams, his aide said. Thousands of them. Brandon smiled grimly. That was another thing the Council never understood about humans. When threatened, they didn't panic or surrender. They got angry, they united, and they fought. Dr. Sophie Martinez worked through the night in her laboratory. The anti-shield missiles had worked perfectly, but she wasn't satisfied. If the Krelvoth were bringing reinforcements, humanity needed even better weapons. She had been studying Krelvoth technology from the damaged ships. Their shields used a frequency-based system cycling through different energy states to block various attacks. But every system had weaknesses. Sophie had found that if you hit the shields with multiple different attack types simultaneously, there was a brief moment, less than a microsecond, when the shields dropped completely. If we can exploit that moment, she muttered to herself, we can punch through any shield in the galaxy. She designed a new weapon, a swarm missile. Each missile carried a dozen smaller submunitions, each using a different attack method. Energy beams, kinetic projectiles, plasma bursts, and gravity pulses, all hitting at precisely the same moment. The enemy shields wouldn't be able to adapt fast enough. Sophie sent the designs to the Mars shipyards. Within hours, production began. By the time the Krelvoth reinforcements arrived, every human ship would be armed with these new weapons. Captain Alex Turner and his special operations team returned to their base on Deimos, Mars's smaller moon. The mission to board the Krelvath flagship had been a success. But Alex knew it was just the beginning. The Krelvath would return, and next time they would be ready for boarding actions. "We need to adapt," Alex told his team during the debriefing. "The Krelvath will upgrade their internal security. Standard boarding tactics won't work again." "What do you suggest, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Rachel Kim, his second in command. Alex pulled up schematics of Krelvath ship designs. "We go biological. Deploy the nanobots before we even board. Let them shut down life support, internal defenses, and communication systems. Then we go in and clean up." "That's aggressive, sir." "War is aggressive. The Krelvath came to enslave our world. We're going to show them what humans do to slavers." The team spent the next 2 days training with the new nanobot deployment systems. The microscopic machines could be launched from a distance, drifting through space like dust until they found openings in enemy ships. Once inside, they would spread like a virus, shutting down systems one by one. It was cruel. It was effective. And it was human ingenuity at its finest. When the Krelvath reinforcements arrived 3 days later, they found the human solar system had changed. There were more ships now, hundreds more, all armed and ready. The weapons platforms that had hidden before were now visible, displayed like a warning. The new Krelvath commander, war leader Zenth, studied the situation carefully. He had heard what happened to Thex's fleet. He would not make the same mistakes. His 100 new warships were the Empire's best, equipped with upgraded shields and weapons. "All ships advance slowly," Zenth ordered. "Deploy sensor nets. I want to know about every human weapon before we engage." The combined Krelvath fleet, now over 200 ships again, moved into the system in a tight formation. They were ready for human tricks. They were ready for surprise attacks. They weren't ready for what actually happened. As the Krelvath fleet crossed into the inner system, the human forces didn't attack. Instead, they broadcasted a message on all frequencies. It was Admiral Kyle Bennett's voice, calm and cold. "Krelvath forces, this is your only warning. You have invaded sovereign human territory. Leave now, or face complete destruction. We are giving you 1 hour to begin your retreat." Zenth laughed. 1 hour? They're bluffing. All ships, continue advance. The hour passed. The Krelvath fleet moved closer to Mars, where the main human shipyards were located. Zenth planned to destroy those yards and cripple human ship production. Then Earth would be defenseless. When the hour expired, the humans attacked. But this wasn't like the first battle. This was coordinated, planned, and brutal. Commander Megan Torres led her squadron of fighters against the Krelvath left flank. Her ships carried Sophie's new swarm missiles. Each missile split into 12 submunitions, all striking the same target at the same microsecond. Krelvath shields, which had been upgraded after the first battle, proved useless. The swarm weapons punched through them like they weren't there. Ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Some took critical damage to engines or weapons. Within 5 minutes, the Krelvath left flank had ceased to exist. On the right flank, Alex Turner's special forces launched their nanobot attack. Thousands of microscopic machines drifted toward the Krelvath ships, invisible to sensors. When they made contact, they infiltrated through exhaust ports, sensor arrays, and communication antenna. Inside the enemy ships, chaos erupted. Life support systems failed. Lights went out. Internal defense turrets turned against their own crews. Communication systems broadcast gibberish. The Krelvath soldiers found themselves fighting in the dark against an enemy they couldn't see. "What's happening?" Zenth shouted on his bridge. "Why are our systems failing?" His technical officer looked terrified. "It's some kind of machine attack. Nanobots, I think. They're everywhere, shutting down everything." General Brandon Cole watched the battle from Earth with satisfaction. The Space Forces were handling the fleet, but some Krelvath drop ships had managed to break through. They were heading for Luna, probably hoping to capture the weapons platforms there. "They're coming right to us," Brandon said with a grim smile. "Good. Let's show them how humans fight on the ground." The Krelvath dropships landed in the Mare Tranquillitatis, the same place where humans had first walked on the moon. 300 Krelvath warriors emerged, armed with plasma weapons and energy shields. They were expecting light resistance from human defenders. Instead, they found themselves in a carefully prepared killing field. The human Marines had fortified every crater, every ridge, every piece of cover. They had positioned their weapons with overlapping fields of fire. They had mines, automated turrets, and heavy weapons emplacements. The Krelvath charged forward, confident in their superior armor and weapons. Then the humans opened fire. The battle lasted 6 minutes. When it was over, all 300 Krelvath soldiers were dead. The humans had lost 11 Marines, and those losses had only happened because some Marines had taken risks to save wounded comrades. Brandon walked through the battlefield afterward, looking at the fallen Krelvath. They were large creatures, strong and fierce. But strength and ferocity meant nothing against superior tactics and preparation. "Sir, the Krelvath fleet is retreating again," his communications officer reported. "They've lost over 80 ships this time." Brandon nodded. The message was clear. Humanity could fight in space, on the ground, in any environment. The Krelvath were learning a hard lesson. In orbit above Earth, Admiral Bennett watched the enemy retreat, but this time he didn't let them go easily. Human ships pursued, harassing the Krelvath fleet, destroying stragglers. He wanted the Krelvath to understand that Earth wasn't just defending anymore. "Admiral, the Council is broadcasting a message," his communications officer reported. "They're calling for an immediate ceasefire." "Ignore it," Bennett said flatly. "We'll stop when the Krelvath are completely out of our system." The Council's ambassador tried again, her voice desperate. "Admiral Bennett, please. You've made your point. Any more bloodshed is unnecessary," Bennett finally responded. "Ambassador, the Krelvath came to enslave us. They came to take our home. We gave them a chance to retreat. They refused. Now they face the consequences. Tell the Council that humanity is done being polite. We will defend our territory with whatever force is necessary." The chase continued for 2 more hours. By the time the Krelvath fleet finally escaped beyond human territory, they had lost 126 ships out of their original 200. It was a devastating defeat. War leader Zenth sent a message back to the Krelvath High Command. It was brief. "Do not engage humans. They are not what we were told. They are dangerous." On the Galactic Council station, panic reached new heights. Council members watched recordings of the battle, seeing human tactics that violated every convention of civilized warfare. The nanobots, the biological weapons, the ruthless pursuit of a retreating enemy. Councillor Zekthar addressed the emergency session. "The question we must answer is simple. Are we at war with humanity?" "They violated the developmental protocols," someone shouted. "The protocols are dead," Zekthar replied. "Humanity destroyed them the moment they revealed their true strength. Now, we must decide how to move forward. Do we try to enforce rules they've already broken? Do we send our own fleets to punish them? Or do we accept reality and negotiate a new relationship?" The chamber fell silent. Everyone knew the answer, but no one wanted to say it out loud. Finally, an older counselor from a minor species stood up. "I propose we grant humanity full sovereign status in the Council. Let them govern themselves without restrictions. It's clear that trying to control them has only made them more dangerous. If we do that, we admit we were wrong," another argued. We were wrong, Zekthar said bluntly. We underestimated them. We tried to cage a species that should have been treated as equals from the beginning. The Krelvath paid the price for our mistake. Let's not make it worse by being stubborn. The vote was called. It wasn't unanimous, but it passed. Humanity would be offered full council membership, with all the rights and responsibilities that came with it. On Earth, President Ryan Foster received the news with a mixture of satisfaction and wariness. It was what humanity had wanted for 50 years, but it came at a high cost. The galaxy now feared them, and fear could be as dangerous as hostility. We won, Admiral Bennett said. We proved we can stand on our own. We survived, Ryan corrected. But the real test is what comes next. Can we turn fear into respect? Can we be strong without being monsters? We'll find out, Bennett replied. One way or another, the galaxy will never underestimate humanity again. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so quiet. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in their floating seats, watching as Ambassador Nicole Harper stood at the podium reserved for major addresses. She wore a simple dark suit, no military uniform, but everyone present knew that Earth had proven its military power beyond any doubt. Nicole took a breath and began. Honored counselors, for 50 years humanity has been a member of this council. We came in peace, hoping to learn from species older and wiser than ourselves. We followed your rules, accepted your restrictions, and tried to be good galactic citizens. She paused, her gaze moving across the chamber. But the developmental protocols were never about protecting us. They were about controlling us. You feared what humanity might become, so you tried to keep us weak. When the Krelvath invaded our home, when they came to enslave us, you did nothing. You let us face destruction alone. A few counselors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Nicole continued, her voice growing stronger. We have heard your offer of full sovereign membership. We accept. But let me be clear about what that means. Humanity will defend itself with whatever means necessary. We will no longer ask permission to build ships, develop weapons, or protect our interests. We will be equals in this council, or we will walk away from it entirely. Councillor Zekthar stood up. Ambassador Harper, the council acknowledges its mistakes. We should have treated humanity as equals from the beginning. But I must ask, what are your intentions? Your military demonstrated capabilities that shocked the galaxy. Many species fear that Earth will seek revenge for past slights. Nicole smiled slightly. Revenge? No. Respect? Absolutely. We don't want an empire. We don't want to conquer anyone. But we will never again be dismissed or ignored. And to those species who supported the restrictions on humanity, I say this. We remember. We remember who stood with us and who stood aside. President Ryan Foster sat in the Oval Office, watching Nicole's speech broadcast from the council station. Beside him sat Admiral Kyle Bennett and several cabinet members. They had been debating Earth's path forward for days. She's doing well, Ryan observed. But words are just the beginning. We need to show the galaxy what kind of power humanity intends to be. We should establish a strong military presence, Bennett argued. Show them we're not going back into our cage. We also need diplomacy, countered Secretary of State Linda Perry. Military power without diplomatic skill leads to isolation. We need allies. Ryan nodded slowly. We need both. Admiral, I want you to continue building our fleet. But I also want you to establish a new division, the Humanity Defense Initiative. Its mission is to protect not just Earth, but any species that asks for our help. Bennett looked surprised. You want us to be the galaxy's guardians? I want us to be what the Council should have been. Fair, strong, and willing to stand up to bullies like the Krelvath. On Luna, Captain Jake Morrison walked through the newly revealed defense center. The place was massive, stretching for kilometers beneath the lunar surface. Screens showed every human ship in the solar system, every weapons platform, every sensor array. "It's incredible," said Lieutenant Chris Parker, who walked beside him. "All this existed while we thought we only had a few dozen patrol ships." "Makes you think about what else might be hidden," Jake replied. He had been promoted after the battle, now commanding the entire Sentinel defense network. It was a position of great responsibility, and he felt the weight of it. A message came through from Admiral Bennett. "Captain Morrison, report to Earth immediately. The President wants to discuss our next steps." Jake took a shuttle down to Geneva, where the United Earth government had its headquarters. He was ushered into a conference room where President Foster, Admiral Bennett, and several other senior officers waited. "Captain Morrison, you were the first to detect the Krelvath invasion," Ryan began. "Your quick response gave us time to mobilize. Now I need your help with something else." "Anything, sir." "We're establishing contact with smaller species in the Council, ones who have been bullied by larger powers. They're reaching out to us, asking if we'll help protect them. I need officers who can work with alien species, build trust, and coordinate defense operations." "Are you interested?" Jake thought for a moment. For 50 years, humanity had been the ones needing protection. Now they were being asked to protect others. It was a big change, but it felt right. "Yes, sir. I'm in." In the weeks following the battle, humanity's role in the galaxy shifted dramatically. The small mining colonies that had contacted Earth for protection became the first test case. They were being threatened by pirate raiders who knew the Council wouldn't intervene. General Brandon Cole led the operation personally. He took 3 ships and 200 Marines to the colony world of Theta Ceti. The pirates, expecting an easy target, found themselves facing human soldiers who had just defeated a Krelvath fleet. The battle was short. The pirates retreated after losing half their ships. Word spread quickly through the underground networks. "Don't mess with human-protected worlds." More requests came in. Small species who had been paying tribute to stronger neighbors asked Earth for help. Resource-rich worlds threatened by corporate exploitation sought human protection. Even some council members, ones who had supported humanity during the debates, quietly asked if Earth would be willing to station defense forces near their territories. Dr. Amy Chen found herself in an unexpected position. The President appointed her as the Chief of Xenodiplomacy, a new position focused on building relationships with alien species. She traveled to dozens of worlds, meeting with leaders, explaining human intentions, and building the network of alliances that Earth would need. "You have to understand," she told a gathering of representatives from smaller species. "Humanity doesn't want to replace the Council. We want to reform it. We want a galaxy where strength is used to protect the weak, not exploit them." "But humans are strong," one alien said nervously. "What if you become like the others? What if power corrupts you as it has corrupted so many?" Amy smiled. "Then check us. Hold us accountable. That's why we're building alliances, not an empire. We want partners who will tell us when we're wrong." Dr. Sophie Martinez continued her work on weapon systems, but now with a different focus. Instead of just building better weapons, she was designing defensive technologies that could be shared with allied species: shield generators, sensor arrays, early warning systems. "We're teaching them how to defend themselves," she explained to a reporter. "That's the difference between an empire and an alliance. Empires keep their subjects weak. Alliances make everyone stronger." The technology sharing was controversial in human government. Some argued they were giving away advantages that had taken years to develop, but President Foster supported it. "If our strength comes only from technology others don't have, then we're not really strong." We're just temporarily ahead. Real strength comes from having friends who stand with us because they choose to, not because they have to. Captain Alex Turner and his special operations teams took on a new mission, training allied species in human combat tactics. It was strange work. Many aliens had never considered some of the techniques humans used. The idea of boarding enemy ships, fighting in zero gravity, or using biological weapons was alien to species who fought in more traditional ways. "You fight dirty," one alien trainee observed. "We fight to win," Alex corrected. There's no honor in losing, no dignity in slavery. We do whatever it takes to protect our people. That's what I'm teaching you. The training programs became popular. Within months, dozens of species had sent their soldiers to learn from human instructors. Earth's reputation shifted from feared newcomer to respected warrior culture. On the Galactic Council station, political power began to shift. The old hierarchy, where a few major species controlled everything, started to break down. Smaller species, now protected by human forces or trained in human tactics, began speaking up in council sessions. Councillor Zekthar watched this change with mixed feelings. Part of him resented how humanity had disrupted the old order, but another part recognized that the old order had been flawed. Too many species had been exploited or ignored. The council had become corrupt, focused more on maintaining power than serving justice. "We created this," he told his fellow councillors during a private meeting. "We tried to keep humanity weak, and instead we forced them to become strong in secret. Now they're reshaping the galaxy, and we can either adapt or become irrelevant." "You sound like you support them," another councillor accused. "I support change. The galaxy needed someone to shake things up. If it had to be humans, so be it." The Krelvath Empire, meanwhile, had withdrawn from the frontier regions. The defeat at Earth had been devastating, not just militarily, but psychologically. For centuries, the Krelvath had been one of the galaxy's dominant military powers. Now they had been humiliated by a species barely a century into space travel. War leader Thex, who had survived the battle, was summoned before the Krelvath High Council. He expected punishment for his failure. Instead, he received a new assignment. "You will travel to Earth," the High Counselor told him. "You will negotiate a peace treaty. The Empire acknowledges that we underestimated humanity. We will not make that mistake again." Thex bowed, accepting the assignment. Pride would have demanded he refuse, but wisdom said otherwise. The Krelvath had learned a hard lesson. Humanity was not prey. They were predators who had been hiding their fangs. When Thex arrived on Earth, he was surprised by his reception. He expected hostility, perhaps humiliation. Instead, he was treated with dignity. President Foster met with him personally in the White House. "War leader Thex, you came to my world seeking conquest," Ryan said calmly. "You found war instead. But the war's over now. What happens next is up to you." "What do you want from the Krelvath Empire?" Thex asked warily. "Peace, trade, a recognition that human space is sovereign and inviolable. In exchange, we're willing to establish normal diplomatic relations. We don't seek revenge. We seek stability." Thex was confused. "You defeated us. You could demand tribute, territory, anything. Why don't you?" Ryan smiled. "Because we're not you. We don't build power through conquest. We build it through respect. If the Krelvath Empire wants to be our enemy, we'll fight. But if you want to be our partner, we'll shake hands and move forward." The treaty was signed 2 weeks later. The Krelvath Empire officially recognized Earth's sovereignty and agreed to stay out of human-protected space. In exchange, Earth agreed not to seek reparations for the invasion and would allow Krelvath ships to pass through human territory under escort. It was a generous treaty, and it sent a message to the galaxy. Humanity was powerful, but not cruel. Dangerous, but not aggressive. They would fight when necessary, but preferred peace when possible. Admiral Kyle Bennett stood on the bridge of the EAS Valiant, humanity's new flagship. It was twice the size of any ship Earth had built before, armed with every weapon system humans had developed. It was a symbol of Earth's power. Visible proof that humanity would never be weak again. But the ship was also equipped with medical facilities, diplomatic suites, and research laboratories. It was designed not just for war, but for peace, for showing the flag, protecting allies, and representing humanity's values. "Admiral, we're receiving a distress signal," reported the communications officer. "It's from a colony world on the edge of Council space. They're being raided." "Set course," Bennett ordered. "Maximum speed. Let's show them what the Human Defense Initiative is for." As the Valiant jumped to faster-than-light speed, Bennett thought about how far humanity had come. 50 years ago, they had been alone and afraid, accepting whatever scraps the Council offered. Now they were one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy, respected and feared in equal measure. But with power came responsibility. Earth had to prove every day that they deserved the trust placed in them. They had to be the guardians they claimed to be, the protectors of the weak, the defenders of justice. Ambassador Nicole Harper returned to Earth after months at the Council station. She was tired, but satisfied. The Council had officially recognized Earth's full sovereignty and had begun the process of reforming the developmental protocols. Future species would be treated as partners, not subjects. She met with President Foster in the White House garden where they could talk privately. "The galaxy is changing," Nicole said. "We changed it. But I worry sometimes. What if we become what we fought against? What if power corrupts us?" Ryan nodded. "That's why we need people like you, Nicole. People who ask those questions. We have to be constantly vigilant, constantly checking ourselves. The moment we think we can't do wrong, that's when we'll become dangerous. The smaller species trust us now. They're calling Earth the guardian world. That's a heavy burden." "It is. But it's also an honor. Our ancestors survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. They never gave up. Now it's our turn to prove we're worthy of their legacy. We'll protect the weak, stand against the strong when they abuse power, and build something better than what came before." Nicole smiled. "That's very idealistic, Mr. President." "Maybe. But humans have always been idealistic. We dream of better worlds. Then we build them. That's our real strength, not our weapons or ships. It's our refusal to accept that things can't be better." Captain Jake Morrison sat on Sentinel-7, watching the stars. The station had been upgraded with new technology, and its crew had tripled in size. They were the first line of defense for Earth, and Jake took that responsibility seriously. "Captain, incoming vessel," Chris reported. "It's transmitting friendly codes. Looks like one of our allied species." "Let them through." The alien ship, small and elegant, docked with the station. Its captain, an insect-like being named Click 17, met with Jake in the conference room. "Captain Morrison, my people thank Earth for the defense systems you provided," Click 17 said through a translator. "We detected raiders in our system last week. Your sensors gave us warning, and your tactics helped us drive them off." "I'm glad we could help," Jake replied. "That's what allies do." "May I ask you something, Captain? Why does humanity do this?" "You could demand payment, tribute, anything. Instead, you give freely." Jake thought about the question. "Because we remember what it was like to be alone and scared. We remember when the Council kept us weak. We don't want other species to feel that way. We want to build a galaxy where everyone can live in peace and security." Click 17's translator crackled with what might have been laughter. "You humans are strange, but in a good way. The galaxy needs more strange. After Click 17 left, Jake stood at the observation window, looking out at Earth. His world had changed so much and would continue changing. But some things remained constant. Humanity's determination, their courage, and their stubborn refusal to give up. The galaxy had tried to keep them in a cage. It had failed. Now, humanity was free, powerful, and determined to make sure no other species would be caged again. It wasn't empire they sought, but justice. Not conquest, but partnership. Not domination, but respect. The Council had asked, in fear, are they attacking Earth? The answer had been clear. No. Earth was defending itself. But the question had revealed the deeper truth. The galaxy had always feared humanity's potential. They had seen humans' aggression, their adaptability, their relentless progress. What they hadn't understood was that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their ability to fight. It was their ability to choose restraint, to be fierce when necessary, merciful when possible, to build rather than destroy, to uplift rather than subjugate. Admiral Bennett broadcast a message to all human forces throughout the solar system and beyond. It was simple, but it became humanity's new creed. We are the Human Defense Initiative. We stand for peace through strength, justice through action, and freedom through courage. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We stand against tyranny in all its forms. We build bridges, not walls. This is our mission. This is our purpose. This is who we are. Across the galaxy, species heard the message and took comfort. Earth was powerful, yes, but Earth was also just. And in a galaxy that had too often seen strength used for oppression, that made all the difference. The galaxy had awakened humanity fiercely, expecting a monster. Instead, they found a guardian, and the stars would never be the same.